Hey, what's up, guys? Eric here. Welcome to Rant and Review. This is a very special edition. We're going to be talking about the first 3 episodes of season 4 of The Boys, and I'm really excited to do that. And we have a special guest joining us today for this Rant and Review. So let's welcome up Darth Bunyan is in the house.
Hello, hello, hello.
Fallible Fandom, Darth Bunyan is here with us to discuss the first 3 episodes. I wanted to have a guest because it was a bonkers premiere for the season. Just so many things happened in the first 3 episodes. And when I didn't realize we were getting 3 in the beginning, I guess I should have checked. I was expecting 2, but then it was 3. And I'm like, okay, that's basically longer than a movie to start off the season. And so I was pretty excited about it. We know the show is now ending in season 5. We know that's going to be the end of the series. They're going to wrap everything up in season 5. And I do feel like maybe we're getting to the point where the extremities and all the stuff that we're seeing on the show, for me, I think it's starting to wear a little bit. Like it's starting to feel a little bit like a thin line. Let's go ahead and jump into like some of the stuff that I'm talking about here. Like, so for example, when they go to this like this sort of MAGA convention with, where they have all the guys there, the podcasters and the grifters and people selling t-shirts and coming up with all these conspiracy theories and stuff like that. It's really hard to look at that on the show and go, yeah, that sounds really crazy. Like that's a parody of something that's gone too far. The show is actually just copying things that are really happening now. You know what I mean? Like that whole thing, like you think about all the things that she was saying, right? It was the pizza shop conspiracy theory or whatever, how all that happened. These are all things that have already occurred and they're just copying them in the show. They're no longer satire extreme parodies. It's literally just one for one, and all of that is interesting to see how they incorporate it into the world of The Boys. It's also like we live in these things. These are things that we see especially if you're here on the internet. Like like the podcast, like Firecracker, like she's a podcast person, right? And she says all the stuff that we hear them say. So there was nothing there extreme or unique to The Boys world. It literally just was a copy of what these people are already saying online. And so for like how far can they change things at this point when they're already now just mirroring what we already are seeing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because then it just becomes the show, It's not a commentary which they've been going for several seasons. They've just relaxed themselves and just are kind of just riding the train then.
Yeah, because like if you look back at the earlier seasons, they still had a little bit of breathing room for like making fun of stuff, sort of like South Park and things like that. They had a little bit of like space for that because a lot of that stuff was predicting how absurd things would get. You know what I mean? Like the idea of these superheroes in these movies. And that was fun because obviously superheroes are not real. And then you have them acting in the movies and that gag worked for a couple seasons. Now we get it. It's a thing that exists in that world. What is the next thing for that? Right. I mean, we got the thing where it seems like his son Ryan was being prepped for these fake, superhero rescues that people thought were real back in the day. And we're finding out even more and more, like with A-Train, that a lot of these things were not real. Yeah. And that to me was like, okay, that's a proper good story for the series because now it sort of takes us back to where we were at in the earlier seasons. But then like the propaganda stuff, conspiracy theory stuff, all of that, that's not really inventive for the show. I think it needed to be a bit more specific to the world. And they tried it a little bit because she did talk about like, Soup Lives Matter and stuff like that. I thought that was interesting, but a lot of that stuff was just recycled stuff that we hear every single day.
I think the satire part was the fact that she just threw everything up like a word soup, like was blatant about it. She wasn't it's all sinister and it's all cunning, but it was just so like bright and neon light, just come and enjoy the hate kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing behind it and it was obvious, So like the difficult thing is when it gets to the level that it's already at, how do you satire that and make it more ridiculous because it's already at shocking levels. Yeah. So would you have just like, because the thing is, we don't know where her character is going, so it could get satire, right? Yeah. So like, I don't know. Would you have just not had it in?
I don't know. Like the scene where, okay, so this is obviously the two new members of the Seven. We have Sister Sage. We're gonna talk about her in a moment, and Firecracker. They had the scene where she was in the Seven's, the lobby with the Seven, and they were doing like the interviews, and she's just off to the side, sort of saying, you know, the trans stuff and all of the conspiracy theory stuff. We're not going to go through all of them, but she's just saying all that stuff. And it was funny for a split second, but then I'm like, I hear this stuff all the time because I mean, I talk about it, I cover it, you know, in other videos. And so for me, it just didn't seem creative enough. I guess I wanted them to be more unique to the world of the boys and less like just the MAGA conspiracy theory stuff. Like I felt like it was too on the nose for me from her character. I do hope you're right. I hope that it does eventually lead to something else. And I would be totally fine with that. But we had 3 episodes. The time we spent with her literally was just, she was a combination of just every single like Trump supporter rolled into one person.
Like, to be fair, like Stormfront kind of went on a scale of,
yeah, that's true.
Like, I'm starting out and just hurting people more than I should. And then she just went full, okay.
Right. Yeah. In the beginning, she tried to play it straight, I guess, for the lack of a better term. Like she was really trying to be sort of a character that people would love and appreciate. Whereas it seems like Firecracker is speaking specifically to like the radicalized people. Cause she even says it in the episode that she's trying to give them purpose. And I guess if you look at it that way, you could say that she was pulling the curtain back from maybe what people on the outside don't know about like the podcasting people and stuff like that. Because they even had like the Alex Jones reference in there, like the Alex Jones lookalike contest and all that. Yeah. Like, I feel like maybe they were doing that, but are there people, and if you're watching this review and maybe you have a different take on this, are there people that don't realize that it's all sort of a scammy thing? Or are there people out there that don't see it that way? Because maybe it was to hold a mirror up to that community. Maybe that was the purpose of it, or...
See, the difficult thing is that they sprinkle it in with truth, right? Because there were some conspiracy theories that when you paused it, some of them were true.
Yeah.
You know? So like that's how they get everybody, by sprinkling just that little bit, you know?
There was like a game I remember back in the day that people said has sort of transformed into this idea of, you know, this extremities, this conspiracy theory stuff is, what is it? 2 lies, 1 truth. I think that's what the game was back in the day, where you would say 3 things and only one of them was true. And they've kind of incorporated that into their entire identity. Like, I'm going to tell you one true thing and then I'm going to make some stuff up. And you're supposed to just believe everything else that I say at that point. We'll see where it goes with her. I mean, she's obviously in love with Homelander, with that creepy, I would do anything for you stuff that she was doing after she joined the team.
I think, honestly, she was just offering it up. I think that was just trying to, you know, I don't think she liked Homelander, honestly.
So you think she's doing the same thing she does with the podcasting stuff, and she's doing something to get something out of it? Yeah. I mean, it's possible. So let's talk a little bit about Sister Sage. Now, this is another character who was introduced as the smartest
love her
person in the world. She had to correct me. So
we have to get it right.
Yeah. And she had no interest in being a super. She kind of was living her life and you know, she didn't want a costume. She didn't want to be on a team, anything like that. And I immediately, from like the first conversation she had with Homelander, I was like, I love this character.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Love this character. And the other thing is she doesn't feel like a copy of another character to me. Like, if you had to like say she reminds you of anybody, could you name? I can't think of any character that this.
No.
I mean, there's a couple of characters that fall like maybe Mr. Terrific, but then he creates gadgets and stuff like that. But that really
she's not athletic like that. Yeah,
exactly. So that doesn't really match either. I mean, he's super smart, and that's why I was like, well, maybe she's.
Yeah, of course, yeah, but she's not out here with backflips and everything. So yeah no.
So she's almost like a unique addition to the boys' world, which is what I think I like about her. She's not copying anybody else, so it's really hard to get a read on her story. Like, for example, Firecracker, the complete opposite of Sister Sage. Like, we have no idea what Sister Sage is going to do, but Firecracker, it's pretty obvious what her character is and what her whole motivation is. We understand how her powers work. We understand what she's out for. Sister Sage has another master plan going on very clearly for everything she's doing. She is extremely keen. Not only is she smart, but she's also savvy, which I think that combination really does work well together. And the way she talked to Homelander is so funny to me.
Oh, just the beautiful, eloquent, deadpan undressing of him was so good. Oh my God, it was beautiful work. Beautiful work. Because as we've seen, the only person that speak to him like that, excuse me, Stan Edgar, Queen Maeve, and Stillwell, really, you know, other than his enemies. So yeah, it's beautiful work.
It's great. So and the thing about it is, I think she's smart enough to know how far she can push him. That's the thing. I think she realizes what she can get away with, because her power is so vague, but also like you can just assume everything that she does has a purpose. And that's why it's so interesting. And just her interactions with Ashley, you know, how she managed to get, so like when we were watching and she managed to get the boys to follow her to this like conspiracy theory festival. And like, there was no way that that was an accident. Like, there's no way she would not know that someone was going to be tracking her, because she's too smart for that. So it was a total setup. And it was not so obvious, but we were thinking it's got to happen. You know, like the way they made that fall into place, it was so beautiful. And so when I'm watching this, I'm like, she knows exactly what she's doing, and everything she does, like with the framing of the Starlighters against the Homelanders and all that, I was like, I don't think she's necessarily an evil person. I don't think she's like maybe she is. I'm not gonna plant my flag on that one right now. Maybe she is like an evil person that's got like these own, like her own self-interest or whatever. But I believe that what she's trying to do is basically destroy the Seven from the inside.
Really? Oh, wow. That's that's awesome. I didn't think of that, right? I love that. But in my head, she's pure evil with no, like, just account for human life.
So you're thinking like numbers. Lex Luthor, like that kind of like stuff. Like she's
absolutely right, because she could genuinely secretly run the world if she wanted to. Like the level of intelligence she has,
especially if she gets Homelander on a leash or his son. Like one of those two would really make it easy for her to do that.
Oh, she's so cool. Because
think about this: a character like Lex Luthor, who isn't like a super, so he doesn't have powers. He's just a really smart individual. Like she would be the equivalent of him times 1,000. Like she is the smartest person. So like if someone like Lex Luthor can come up with these plans to sort of hold supers on a leash and then use that for power, I can only imagine what she's thinking. Because I think her whole thing about like, I don't want to be in a suit and all that, I think all of that was done to get her where she is. Like, I think that's where she's at is exactly where she expected to be. I'm going to just assume anything that happens to her at this point, unless she explicitly states otherwise, was her plan.
Yeah, because he wouldn't have, like, she literally gave him a weakness to hit.
Yeah.
That is superficial, maybe, to like, but obviously affect her personally. But it's, wow. That's genius. Because
think about it. If she would have given him a weakness like, oh, I'm afraid of the dark, or I hate being in deep water or whatever, then that could actually put her in harm's way. If her weakness is, I don't want to wear a super suit because I don't want to be on the fucking Seven, what does he do? He puts her in a super suit. He puts her on the Seven. I'm going to assume that that's what she wanted.
Speaking of deep waters, right? And what you said earlier about you don't think that she does nothing without a reason. What do you think her in the deep is going to end up being? Unless that's just a time where she's just completely human.
So you're talking about the last scene with them together. Is that what you're talking about? Okay. So we were watching that scene and we paused it a few times. What was that on the table in front of them?
I rewound it too. I am so confused because that was not referenced in the scene whatsoever.
It was like a bloody thing, like an ice pick or something.
Or something. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either, because we were wondering, like, was that actually her? Was that her, or was that something else? Like, we don't know. Not totally sure. I feel like that one is still, unless if you're watching this and in the comments and you know what that was, leave it in the comments below. I have no idea. But assuming that the deep in her, that whole situation moves forward, I think she is just once again manipulating people. I think she is a master manipulator. I think everything she does, like telling him that, you know, you can't let Ashley talk to you that way. You know, she's basically a
building him up.
Like, so, and all that. Yeah, she's building him up because I think that there's an ultimate like end game for her plan.
See, now that you're really selling me on this. You're really selling me on this because if she just keeps slowly working on each member, then by the end of it, Homelander's going to be alone, 5 to 6 against 1, plus the boys. Wow.
Because the whole reason Homelander brought her in was to help him get what he wants. And so he basically told her his weakness, which is his ego. You know what I mean? Like he's egotistical, and that's a massive weakness. So it's an easy way to manipulate it. And she already understands that because she laid out like how dictators in the past have lost and what the problems have been and why people do what they do. And you saw her apartment. I mean, she's been reading all of these books, and like I feel like she's very, very, very knowledgeable on everything that she needs to be to help with this. And she might have been, to be quite clear, this might have been her plan all along from the beginning. Maybe she's been setting this up for a really long time. Maybe we're going to find out. They'll do flashbacks and show that she's been doing things over the last 3 seasons to sort of set everything up. Because think about it, she knew about Stormfront. She brought up all that and everything. So she's been keeping an eye on all of this apparently. So I have a feeling it's a lot deeper. She probably even knows all the stuff that was going on at Godalkin, to be honest.
I'm dying to know how Butcher knows about that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some of the smaller characters this season so far. One of them is Kamiko. Love Kamiko, but she's kind of just chilling this season. With Frenchie, and Frenchie's got a much bigger story, which we'll get into that in a moment.
Kamiko seems repetitive.
It does, because I feel like last season they were very heavy on her story, and this season not so much. She's kind of just like the Wolverine character, you know what I mean? Like that's who she is, and I'm okay with that right now. We'll see where it goes with her. We got a lot of moving parts in this season. So if
season 1 or 2 we had her brother?
I think that was 2. And then 3 was the one where she lost her powers, right? Wasn't that she had to go through and get her powers back? Yeah. So we have that. Black Noir 2, which is who is that? Do we know who that character is? Like in the
No. I keep half expecting the mask to come up and it's Sam or something. Like I don't know. I'm so curious. Like he's literally just got to be like the stunt double from maybe the 7, that like Homelander's
he's got powers. Clearly, he's got powers, but
but you'd imagine that a stunt person would have to have powers in that universe.
Yeah.
Right. So it literally could just be somebody Homelander's gone, listen, I don't want everyone to know what I've done. I'll pay you some money. Just come in, wear the suit, and pretend to be him.
It's just funny because he keeps doing stuff like Black Noir. The first one just stood there. He didn't do anything. This one's like he's like going on stage, and it's like people clearly are going to notice that he's not acting normal, but maybe they're not. I don't know. Who else do we have that we haven't talked about? Mother's Milk got a great story this season. I really enjoy what he's doing with Butcher. They're kind of like, this is the fallout from last season and everything that happened with the Temp V and all that. Between the two of them, and Butcher just letting him down at every turn. Look, Mother's Milk has been, since season 1, one of those characters that has had a lot of these growth spurts where he like changes throughout the time, quickly, because we don't spend a lot of time with him. I feel like this season we've gotten a lot of him in the first 3 episodes, and I'm okay with that. I really like his character.
I love him. Yeah, he's great.
And so, we have the stuff with A-Train and his family, and possibly possibly feeling bad for the stuff that he did. Maybe, I don't know. Is there a redemption path for A-Train at this point? I mean,
seeing it, I didn't think it was possible. If somebody asked me, like, hey, do you think any of the 7 are going to flip? No. Maybe the Deep, maybe. Wouldn't be A-Train is my guess.
I mean, Maeve was obvious. We knew that she was not happy with everything that was going on. But A-Train, we talked about this when we were watching it, and it's like, he's just not very trustworthy. You know what I mean? As an individual, you never know which way he's going to go. However, if he truly is feeling some sort of like remorse for everything that's happened, all of the fake stuff that he's done, things that happened with his family, his brother, all of this, if all of that really is affecting him, I'm not saying that we're going to walk away and go, oh yeah, he's a great character now, he did a great thing. But maybe like personally for him, he wants to do this because he knows how important it is. And maybe, and this might actually be the one thing that Sister Sage is not totally aware of, because they were questioning, you know, people in that department, in Deep's department, about this. And she wants to get to the bottom of it, because I feel like out of all the variables that she's had, I don't think she expected A-Train to flip.
No.
And this might be her one misstep in all of this, is that she just doesn't have an idea of who it is. I think she will figure it out, but I don't think she knows right now who it is. But I don't even know if she cares, to be honest. Because the thing is, if she, this is the way I look at this. If she's actually an evil individual and she just wants all this power for herself, then this is a mistake and she needs to correct the mistake. However, if she is trying to destroy the 7 from within, then she knows that it's A-Train, and she's letting it happen because she wants to destroy the 7. So it's one of those two things. That's the only direction it can be. Because if you think about how smart she is, to miss this one thing would be a pretty big issue.
That's the issue is how big the company is. You know, like there's a lot of variables to be accounted for.
Yeah. And we'll see where that goes. Huey dealing with his father and mother issues. It's interesting, but it's probably not the most interesting part of the storyline for me.
I do have to say though, the talk they had was stunning, and I don't like. I think postnatal or postpartum depression is something is very, very serious and affects like a lot of women, and I'm glad that they spoke about it in such a way, because it's something that doesn't get enough exposure, because people just hear depression and think, oh, they're just sad. But that's not the case.
It's completely different. Yeah, it's a completely different thing. So
for that to be said, I think was massively important.
But the thing about it is as good as it is, look at how extreme this season has been with these characters. I mean, look at these two characters. Like the extremities of the boys, sometimes the quieter parts get you overlook it. Maybe I'll appreciate it more when I go back and watch the whole thing when the series is done. Right now, it's probably my least favorite thing. We have Starlight dealing with a group of people who are following her as Starlight, but she wants to be known as Annie for most of the first 3 episodes. While they're trying to do all this stuff, and they're like, look, we need donations, we need money. It's very clear that with Firecracker and a lot of these people, they're just in it to make money off of people. And so it's very obvious that that's the case. And they can do that by manipulating people, making them feel like they have a purpose, and then exploiting that purpose. And so we see that. But then on the progressive side, in order to hold a higher standard for yourself and for the people around you, you can't do that, because it makes you look like you're doing the same thing that you're attacking the other side for doing. So they address that here with the whole Starlight thing, because Annie doesn't want to be sexualized and seen as Starlight because of all the drama that comes with that, everything that it stood for over the years. She wants to be Annie. And then eventually she finds out that that's not going to work. You have to, at least in some regard, get in the mud and fight a little bit, because that's really the only way it's going to happen. And she has that realization throughout the 3 episodes.
She's being thrust into being a leader, like, because the whole time, even when like her whole life is to be into the 7, but even that had a figurehead and a leader, right? It was never to lead. It was always to be a part of a team, and to just make it. You know what I mean? But now she's being like, her whole life she was put under the thumb by her mother as well. So now there's like she's being forced to push through all of that in the name of other people, to stand with other people. And somebody saying, okay, so you need like to be like more iconic than just I'm wearing just what I would when I'm watching Friends, you know. Whereas Homelander, all he wants to do is lead. He wants to lead the planet. So it's great seeing them on the opposite sides of the coin.
So you like the juxtaposition of like him wanting all that power, wanting to control the world, and her having power but not wanting any of that power. So for you,
absolutely,
that's okay, that makes sense. I can't wait to see what's going to happen once she starts really diving back into the persona of Starlight and how that's going to affect her when she was on the Seven, and how she sort of dealt with playing second fiddle to Homelander, because she was really like after Maeve was gone, she was the next one in line for that. And now we're going to see her come back as a stronger person. She's going to be struggling with her identity here, and I think that's going to make for really, really good character growth for her. And when I say struggling, I don't mean like crying and being upset. I mean, I feel like a show of strength, a show of power that we haven't seen from her in the past. So I'm really excited about that as well. Let's talk a bit about Ryan here, because this is funny to me. So I got this off Reddit. I had it saved because I wasn't sure if it was going to be in the first 3 episodes, but it actually was. And we're going to look at this picture here. So Homeboy was the
oh my god.
And the hilarious thing was Sister Sage was like, this is shit. This whole thing is shit. Like,
I loved her for that. Oh my god.
This idea that you want your son to be your sidekick in a world where they've proven sidekicks don't matter, which is hilarious because it's almost like making fun of the whole idea of sidekicks in comic books, which you don't really see as much anymore. But she's like, he needs to be a standalone character. And so they're setting up this whole thing where there's going to be a fake, like he's going to have to save a person from being shot or whatever. And they have this whole scene set up. And she's telling Homelander that you can't do this. You can't go in. You can't be a part of this. It has to be him by himself. And he has to make a stand on his own, right? No costume, no nothing. Just him by himself as himself. And of course, that's not what happens. And it makes me wonder, did she know that that was going to be the result? Did she know? Like, I'm going to be thinking about this all season until we get an answer. Did she know that Homelander was going to step in and was going to make this look the way it looked? And for me, it was like, okay, so if she understood this, if she knew this was going to happen, then she's like, it's just like this mastermind thing. Like, I really, really don't know.
Do you know what it could be? Do you know what it could be? Like literally what Homelander said to her as he was leaving his apartment, right, is you can play the games that you want to play, which might be what the friction she was having at Teen Kicks or whatever, right? So he said you can play that on like a bigger or global scale or whatever. Maybe that's what she's doing. It's just like a whole bunch of different little social experiments, right? And one of them was actually giving Homelander what he wanted. You know what I mean? And when he's like, oh, my ego, she's like, no, that's not okay. That's not great. And here's why, right? Here's a logical reason why. And then it still happened that way. So it could all just be a test in different ways.
This is hilarious. If I see this costume, I'm going to laugh because it's just so funny.
It's so bad.
This like Robin-esque version of the Homelander suit, which I think is just hilarious to me. I don't even know if we'll get a suit this season, unless it's been leaked out that he's going to get one. I don't know.
I have to say, I'm enjoying Ryan this season. I don't know.
He's a proper character this season.
Now, yeah. He's had to grow on me, and he's doing really well.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed it. So Frenchie's storyline this season, at the beginning, we were watching it, and immediately they have this situation where, as far as I know, it seems like he's at least bisexual, maybe pansexual, based on what they've set up in the season. We got the first 3 episodes, so I think I know why it happened the way it did. Is that it wasn't just that he was introduced as being someone who is bi or pan. It was that it happened like it was almost like it was so like it happened. It was breakneck speed, basically. Like
Colin.
Like we get this character, we get Frenchie. There's possibly some sort of thing brewing, and then they're sleeping together in an apartment. You know what I mean? And I thought to myself, like, why did this happen so quickly? Was it specifically because they were trying to piss off people that are against this kind of stuff in TV shows and movies? Were they purposely doing it for that reason? Because let's be clear here, The Boys loves to like push buttons. I mean, that's what the show does, right?
Yeah, but no, they saved us what, weeks of time by starting the relationship and everything where it was. Because if we started at the beginning, we would have had to go to all of those meetings, you know, watched all of that, and then slowly have that develop over weeks when we could have just jumped in where we are.
And I think there's another thing, though. I think the ultimate reason why, personally, you're right, that is, we got past all that. But the reason why I think it happened so quickly, and the reason why it's like a blink and you missed it moment in the episode or whatever, is because they needed to tell the story of what Frenchie did to his family. And we needed to get there because the season's not that long. We need to get there very quickly. So they did exactly what you said. They were like, we're going to skip over all of the lead up to this with all these meetings. We're going to make it seem like a lot of the stuff happened off screen leading up to their relationship, which is where, and as much as I love that, that's kind of where I have the problem with this, is because I would have liked to have seen how this happened, like how we got to this point. But as a viewer, and someone who likes to see this kind of stuff, I would have appreciated just a little bit more time in the oven so I could actually like really get to see the two of them sort of get to know each other. Because like we jump into it and Frenchie, as far as I know, and maybe I've been reading this wrong, wasn't Frenchie, as far as we know, the first 3 seasons, interested in Kimiko?
They're kind of together, yeah. They're together, yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, as a viewer, as much as I love what they're doing with him, I would have loved to have seen some sort of like a better lead into it, just a little bit. Just give me a little something.
I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised when I saw it. I was like, Frenchie, no, what are you doing, Frenchie? Right? But when the characters introduce us, his first storyline really is about him being in a throuple and the damage of how that ended. You know, so them like having a break in the season and then coming back and discussing a third potential, like another potential part of that, doesn't throw me off too much. Like I was surprised, but in my head, I don't know how much of a time skip's happened, because as far as I'm aware, that's the most time skippy thing that's happened since since the attack. You know,
and I want to be clear here. My issue, like I said, people come out all the time, so you never know what someone is unless they tell you or you see it. It's the fact that he's been into Kimiko all this time, and then we introduce this new love interest, and it just kind of gets dropped on us. Like I think if it would have been any other person, my reaction would have been pretty much the same. Like I just would have liked to have seen some sort of indication that this was coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was like breakneck for me. It was like a breakneck moment where I'm like, what? Who is this person? And so that's my only issue. But I do think that the reason why they did that is they didn't want to waste a lot of time. They wanted to get into this thing where Frenchie is dealing with the trauma of what he did in his past to this person's family and how that's going to affect him as a character moving forward. It's going to deal with the addiction thing with the hallucinogens that he was taking and stuff like that. So I think all of this is going to lead to a big payoff. But when it comes to relationship stuff, when you have that sort of moment as a viewer, I would have really just appreciated a little more of like a heads up sort of, I would have felt more satisfied with it, I guess, in the end, if that would have happened.
Honestly, if what I would have done if it was me is I would have taken away the mother stuff and then had more moments with them. Yeah,
I agree. But look, I love Frenchie. I think this is a great storyline for him. I can't wait to see where it's going to go.
Great actor. Like, I believe all of it.
Think about what we're dealing with him, just to conceptualize this, right? So he was interested in Kimiko. That's not going to be a thing. He's met Colin through recovery. He's still doing stuff. Obviously, he's still taking things because Kimiko seems shocked when she's like, "Are you high?" Like when they're together or whatever. So it's still, he's still doing stuff. He's got this person that he's with, and he's the person that took out a hit on their family. So what storyline is like, this is crazy, but crazy in the best way. Like, I think this is one of the most interesting things in the whole season for me, to be completely honest, outside of like the superhero stuff. I really just want to see where this goes, because I feel like Frenchie as a character has been I don't want to say a side character, but he hasn't been the most focused character for the stories through the first 3 seasons, outside of the Kamiko stuff. So this sort of gives him his own thing outside of that, which I think is really important. And we got a little bit of that with his past when we covered that in a previous season. But I feel like this is just more layers on top of that. And I'm just really excited for it. I think it's really good.
Do you think the visions that are haunting him are, the woman that turned up that was from his past, that was talking about the dog collar and the leash? Do you think those are people she had him unalive, or other people? Or do you think there's another person that held the leash?
I don't know. That's a good question. They didn't make it very clear, did they?
No.
Like when she was talking. No, they didn't make it very clear. Yeah, I don't know. I have no clue. I do think that the storyline with Butcher and Ryan is extremely heartbreaking. Like, just to see how all of that is playing out right now, because you have Homelander, who is literally cracking. He's getting older. He's feeling very self-conscious about it. Literally cracking. Like, you see the mirror, like the personalities, like all these different multiple personalities that he's got inside of his head, telling him to do stuff. He's doing this because he's giving Ryan everything and hoping that Ryan will just be a carbon copy of him to carry on his legacy. And he's seeing that Ryan exemplifies empathy. He cares about people, human beings. And this is something that Homelander cannot, he just doesn't know how to process this at all. And it's making him very angry. And he's taking it very personally because it is Butcher. So it's not just any person, it's Butcher, which is someone that it's always been Homelander versus Butcher. This is what the whole foundation of the show is. So you have these two going at odds, and in between them is this boy that has the powers of Homelander, but clearly has the empathy of Butcher and his mother. And that's really what is wearing on Homelander as a character. And watching this struggle with Butcher, where he's like, I want to get him away from Homelander, but I don't want him locked up. I don't want him put away. I don't want him trained as a weapon. I want to give him the best possible life he can have, but I don't know how to do that, because how do you hide Superboy from Superman? That's essentially what it is. How do you do that?
Yeah.
That whole storyline. Do you think there's a silver lining to any of that at all?
Just the gravity of Butcher's situation shows the earnestness of his actions and his words. Like, even though Ryan had the joke earlier that if it'd mean a lot more if you only had one more month, but like, he's genuinely there because he doesn't want to lose him, and he wants he wants to be a better person, and can see that Homeland is a horrible influence.
Yeah. And
does not want to be that person, thank God. But the main question I have is like, what comes next?
Right.
Because obviously we have the 6 months, but that's where season 5 is going to be done, right? We have Bobby Singer setting up a possible world without Soups. You have Ryan and potentially like Starlight setting up a vanguard of good heroes that could trailblaze a new wave of heroes that are actually there for the people,
not owned by a corporation, which seems to be the big issues that we've thought.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have Victoria Newman, and we have her storyline where obviously she's there dealing with Singer and the superheroes and government and all that. And I don't know where that's going to go. We still know that she seems to be the best weapon against Homelander because of her powers.
Yeah. Well,
not sure,
Then we've also got Marie, though. I feel like Marie is that, because she's got the same powers, really.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. She's just not as well. She's not as well trained as Victoria is the thing. I think Victoria is very, very much like been trained about this. But then we got Zoe, and they're trying to set up Zoe and Ryan together or whatever. So
that was awful.
That whole dialogue was awful. Which, by the way, if you want to hear more about this, the Weekly Geekly is returning next week. So if you're watching this review for a more in-depth conversation about The Boys and the first 3 episodes, you want to join us on the Weekly Geekly. We're going to talk about everything, including that really awful, Vought on Ice thing, that whole scene with
that was hilarious. Oh my god.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that there. We have more time, so you don't want to miss out on the Weekly Geekly. It will be coming soon. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and you have notifications turned on for that. Overall, though, I'm going to give my score, and then I want to know what your score is. I'm going to score all 3 episodes together as one because I feel like they were all, for me, I think all of them sort of led into each other very well. So I feel like I can give the same score for all of them. I enjoyed pretty much everything. I do feel like a lot of the stuff was too on the nose, but I'm going to give it a chance to cook. So I'm not going to knock it yet. I'm going to give it a chance to cook. We got more episodes this season. And I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. I think the first 3 episodes for me were like an 8 out of 10. I don't want to give them a 9 yet because, again, I think they're still cooking. And 10, I'm saving that because I think we're going to get a couple of 10s this season probably towards the back half of the season. But 8 out of 10 is my score. What would you say your score would be if you're going to rank these?
I would absolutely agree, honestly, because it was a lot of foundation and character work. It was a lot of because each season with The Boys, they set up a lot of pieces and then just start knocking over pieces, reaching for other pieces. So they need to keep setting them up every season. And that's what we got for the first 3 episodes, which is why they released it all in one go. Thank God they did. Right.
Yes. I feel like the 3rd episode ended exactly where we needed it to end, which is Homelander being told he needs to go back to the beginning. Okay, so let's see what that means when we get to episode 4.
Exactly. Yeah.
So really excited.
So we had some big moments, big funny moments that were just made you just go, "What? Oh my god!" Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we are getting 8 episodes this season. I wanted to double check that. So we are getting 8 episodes. So we still have 5 more to go. I can only imagine how we're going to ramp this up as we go on. We know, again, season 5 is the last season. So this is definitely the penultimate season, setting up that final round with all the characters doing whatever they're going to do. And then apparently Gen V is going to continue on. They have no plans to end that yet because it's basically just starting. So we'll see what's going to happen with Gen V. And maybe we'll see these characters again in Gen V, depending on who makes it out alive at the end of season 5. So anyway, thank you guys. Go ahead.
Can you imagine Ashley in charge of Disney?
That would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I do appreciate you being here. I appreciate Darth Bunyan, Followable Fandom, joining me. You can check out his podcast on Fridays and give him some love over there. Show him what's up. Check out his channel. Go subscribe to all of that stuff. And again, if you want to get a more in-depth conversation with a group of people, the Weekly Geekly will be returning next week. So if you'd like to join us for that, make sure you subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, and make sure you leave a comment down below. Leave a like or dislike. It's all engagement. Whatever your heart is telling you, go ahead and do it. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.